Hi, Reuben Vollmer, CEO of Spout. Great to have you on today's plugged in episode. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Really good to have you on. And I always love having the opportunity to come across people like yourself, Reuben. I'm always fascinated by human behavior and I'm always fascinated by innovation and when people are living their life and then something comes from left field and takes them on a pilgrimage and a mission that then becomes way bigger than themselves and actually then starts to solve problems across the globe. But what is Spout and what solution does it solve and how did it start?
Yeah, so Spout, we make a device that makes about 2 gallons or 8 liters of water from the air every day. So it's like a coffee maker size machine that is your new source of fresh drinking water. And we're really looking to replace bottled waters because 1 in 5 Americans is living off of bottled water. And with Spout, you are able to get a higher quality of water for less expense without having to go to the store, and you don't have the environmental footprint of bottled water. So that's our main target, and that's our product, making water from air wherever you want, so you have your own source, start to finish. And this began for me actually about 10 years ago. Oh, that's so crazy. Um, yeah, 10 years ago, my parents' farm had its water rights threatened by the state of California. They were growing olives outside of Los Angeles. They got a letter in the mail that said, don't count on having access to your water because we're in a drought, which was very devastating to my family. And at that time, I was working as a rapid prototyper for Fortune 500 companies. So I was doing 3D printing, 3D modeling, circuit board design, programming. And like literally the day after they got that letter in the mail, I was walking my dog and I noticed dew on a grassy field. And I thought, why don't I make a prototype to capture the dew overnight? Here's water being made, without pipes, without bottles, without it even being plugged in. There's just water happening. So how could I harness that effect and turn it into a product that could help my parents out or help people around the world get access to water? So again, that was 10 years ago, and I've been on this crazy journey around the world, and developing this product has been obviously the most difficult thing I've ever done with my life and the most important for sure.
Ma- Gorgeous story. I love when you just like minding your own business on a walk and then something like just really just captures you. And I love the fact that you even mentioned plugged in then, which I thought was quite funny. Um, Ruben, I'd love to know how does the spout technology maximize the energy performance while also optimizing the water extraction in different climates? Because obviously, in the world we live in, climates are so different. Some climates are
Mhm.
dry, some are really barren, and then some are like overwhelmed with water in the air. Like how does that work?
Yeah, this is part of the reason why it's taken me 10 years to get here, is
Yeah.
figuring that part of it out. So basically, I've tried a lot of different ways to make water out of air. I've invented new ways to make water out of air, and kind of where we landed is a combination of stuff that's worked in the past and some new technology coming together. But fundamentally, we are using a clay wheel, which is able to absorb water vapor from the air. So it's like kind of like a microscopic sponge that's just made to pick up water vapor specifically from the air. So, like, because you could say our product is like a dehumidifier, except classically dehumidifiers have like a refrigerator compressor, evaporator, condenser, and they'll make rods, aluminum rods typically. They'll bring the temperature down to below dew point, which will create condensation on these rods, and that drips down and gets collected and discarded. But we're not doing that at all. We're doing a totally different method, so that way the machine does make water in the widest range of temperature and humidity. So with this molecular sponge, we're able to make water in a desert or in a tropical jungle, because it's just absorbing the water vapor from the air as this wheel rotates. It's a clay wheel that rotates at 1 RPM, and 3/4 of that wheel is open to receive water vapor, and a quarter of the wheel is blocked off with a heating coil that drives the moisture out of the clay wheel. That hot moisture travels around inside the machine to a condenser that's separate from the outside airflow, but is cooled by the incoming air. And so basically, as the hot, moist air is traveling through that condenser and being cooled by the incoming air, it makes little droplets inside and that drips down. And then there's a collection tank that has an ultraviolet light in it. So the water gets immediately sterilized. And then we have a pump and the sensor that measures the water level in the tank. And then we have this water filter that we spent about 5 years developing with this world famous water chemist, Chubb Michaud, who's just a phenomenal guy. Super lucky to be working with him. And then the water goes through the water filter, and then it gets remineralized, and then it goes into our pitcher. So there's actually like a jug or a pitcher, however you want to call it, that holds a half gallon or about 2 liters of water. And so the machine works to fill up this pitcher, and then when the pitcher is full, it shuts the machine off, and the pitcher just waits there for you to come along and pull it out. And what's really cool about the pitcher is that there's a ultraviolet light in the lid that sterilizes the water, and the pitcher is inductively charged, so wirelessly charged. So when you have the pitcher inside the machine, it's actually charging. And then when you take the pitcher out of the machine, it stays on and stays sterilizing the water over time. So instead of using chlorine or any disinfecting products in the water, we're on a mission to make the greatest water on earth, fundamentally. So we don't want to put anything that's not water and minerals into anyone's bodies. So we take that very seriously. So that's why we have UV at different stages throughout the machine. We want to have the purest water possible, but we don't want any microbial growth. So we have, again, these UV lights, which help with that. So that's how it works.
Wow. I mean, you
Yeah.
made that pretty simple. I followed along, and obviously, like you said, it's taken you 10 years to like be able to create something that is able to deal with all the different climates and challenges. I know that you have worked in your own personal life with NASA affiliated researchers.
Hmm.
I would love to know, Reuben, if their influence and that experience helped shape maybe some of the technology around Spout here.
Yeah. So that's the coolest thing. So fundamentally, this technology very similarly exists presently on the International Space Station. It's different but similar. So basically, on the International Space Station, this is one of the ways that they make water by taking it out of the air and then filtering it essentially and serving it back to the astronauts. So this was an opportunity that came up right when COVID was hitting. I think it was April of 2020. I had just gotten laid off from my aerospace job and was sitting at home. Spout hadn't gotten any funding or had just gotten its first check at that time. And then we had a friend going to the High Seas Space Colony, which is a space colony analog built on top of a volcano in Hawaii, which is basically like a big dome. And they have five or so quote unquote astronauts that live there, and they'll test out different technologies to see if it's good to potentially use to build a moon base or a base on Mars. And so I was able to scrap together a new machine just for this test. I literally built it in my bedroom, which is just, I don't know if that's gross or crazy or what, but I had nothing else, nowhere else to go. With COVID, we couldn't really, and we didn't have an office yet. So that's just where it happened. And luckily, I do have, or did have 3D printers in my bedroom and every tool imaginable because I was, that was kind of like how I was doing my side projects while I was working in aerospace during the day. I'd have my side projects at home. So. Yeah, so I built a machine and sent it on with this astronaut, and they tried it out in the space colony, and it worked great. I mean, it's incredible because when you're in a closed environment, it actually does naturally get incredibly humid. So
Mm,
this is also why our machine works in a very wide range of temperatures and humidities across the planet, is because the machine's made to work inside, and inside is a humidity trap. No matter where you are, it is more humid and there's more water vapor available inside, unless you're in a super tropical place. But everything gets like water vapor goes into things, and like everything is pretty much a sponge for water vapor at the end of the day. So yeah, it was just a very interesting experience to learn like that this is an awesome technology for a colony. And one of our first checks was from this company, Mars Bio, a venture capital firm that's building a colony on Mars. That was actually literally our first check was from this venture capital firm that wanted to build a colony on Mars, and they literally see us as the solution for making water on Mars, which was really cool.
yeah, that is cool. That's very cool. You talked a little bit about the different humidity conditions. What was the biggest like engineering challenge for Spout's your water generator countertop that I know that you actually have one behind you. Like, what was the biggest challenge with that?
Mhm. Well, making it something that people wanted to buy, just to make it super simple. Because basically, the first 5 years, I was making these machines that were about 150 pounds. What is that? Is that 200 kilo, 50 kilos?
Mm,
It was very heavy, and it cost about 5 times as much money. And I designed it myself, and I'm more of an engineer than a designer, so it wasn't pretty, and it was very loud. And so it's like I was trying to fundraise with that machine, with those machines, and I ended up making several of them and doing an Indiegogo campaign that failed, which was like the most painful experience I think I've ever been through, actually
mm,
publicly failing on a platform like that. Um, and then I met my business partner Tyler, who convinced me to start Spout with him and try to find a way to make this a consumer product and not just an engineer's, dreamboat in a way. It's got
mm,
to actually, like Tyler was saying, like, what if you took this machine but made it like if Tesla was going to do this or Apple, what would it be like? What would it feel like? What do the customers want? Which caused me to go back to the drawing board fundamentally, redesign the machine from scratch. Every single part is different. Hiring a world-class designer, Fred Bold, who designed the Nest thermostat to make it look and feel really good in people's homes. Yeah, so that was like literally had to start from scratch 5 years in to make something that was physically significantly smaller, quieter, less expensive, working in a wider range of temperature and humidity. Um, yeah, so that was like the biggest engineering challenge. And then how do you make that mass manufacturable is another huge thing, which I don't
mm,
hear enough people talking about, but I'm an expert at rapid prototyping and coming up with engineering solutions. But when you go into mass manufacturing, it's a whole nother world. It's you like it's I would say you have to start from scratch, but somehow it's worse than that. So it's like starting from scratch over and over again, not ever giving up, fundraising, asking venture capitalists and investors, angel investors for money, to be able to do the mass manufacturing. We just spent $500,000 on molds to make the parts for the machine, and again, like when we go into mass manufacturing, we have to get all new parts once again. And we have to make sure that they don't have long lead times, that they're affordable, that they work for a long period of time. So there's been many levels of
mm,
incredible difficulty on the last 10 years.
mm. How does your technology, Reuben, compare to other water purification methods and products? I know you talked about purity and how you want it to be the healthiest water on the planet. How does it compare with regards to efficiency?
Um, with regards to efficiency or purity.
Well, both. I mean, for me, how does the technology that you've created compare to some other competitors that are in the world of water purification?
Yeah, so fundamentally, I see it like this. Like for thousands of years, we've had pipes, and bottles, right? We used to have leather sacks that would carry our water around, for literally thousands of years. And then, in the last couple hundred years, we've gotten into water filtration, which is great, and definitely needed because unfortunately we're polluting the planet at an alarming rate these days. Um, and then right now, 40% of Americans don't trust tap water, which again leads them to bottled water, which is obviously bad for the planet, has microplastics, all these things. Um, so, again, with this 40% of people who don't trust tap water, they'll filter their water, but also people don't feel good about filtering their water, or there's a question of, is this filter actually catching everything? Or when there's a boil water advisory, people just doubt their water for a lot longer period of time and their filter. So it's really hard to say because every tap in the world has molecularly different water coming out of it because of where each municipality sources the water, how they treat the water, the pipes that go to the house, the pipes in the house that go to the tap, and then the filters themselves. And actually, I've seen more contamination from filters than from tap water, which is a whole other thing that I'm surprised people don't talk about. But
Right.
we literally see it in our lab when we're testing different types of water medias, that you can actually get contaminants from water filters. But yeah, fundamentally, people don't know what to trust. They don't know what's in the water. They don't know if the filter's going to get it. And they don't know how long since they changed their filters last. There's a lot of variables there. It's kind of hard for me to tackle it all at once, besides just saying that tap water is different, like I said, everywhere. And every filter is more or less the same from every other filter on the product line of our competitors. And so it's, again, people just have like a question of how much is the filter really doing. And again, when it comes to PFAS chemicals, the vast majority of filters don't catch that, and those chemicals can cause birth defects, cancer, obesity, all kinds of horrible things. And the vast majority of filters, yeah, don't filter that out at all. So
Mm.
our system is different because we don't even touch tap water. We are totally separate from tap water, totally separate from bottled water. We are a completely new source of water. Like I said, thousands of years, bottles, pipes, and now we have Spout, which is a totally separate source, which is essentially closer to rainwater than anything else because we're condensing the water vapor in the air. But we have about 8 levels of filtration throughout the machine. So it's kind of like rainwater, but with an insane amount of filtering on top of it. So that way you can guarantee perfectly pure water anywhere on Earth.
Yeah, and you're obviously capturing because there's a lot of passionate people about the planet, about uh, getting resource from organic. Again, that really pushes on, I think, the more awareness that society has built anyway around health, which is definitely a big plus point. In terms of Spout, is it available to everyone all over the world?
For now, we're just doing sales in the States. So for the next, I think until September or so, then we'll open it up to other countries. And we have had a lot of demand from other countries, but we're just trying to nail the States for now. And so the wildest thing to me is that even after all these years, tomorrow I get the first shipment of 30 machines from the factory. We've already gotten machines from the factory, of course, we've been testing, but we actually finally get like the final beginning of the final shipment tomorrow. And then we have a shipping container coming mid-March with 500 units, and then another shipping container at the end of March. And those are already on their way. Um, so which is incredibly exciting and a bit nerve-wracking, but so we're just a baby startup in a lot of ways, and we're just on day one, even after all these years. So yeah, it's just been an insane amount of work, but I'm super proud of our team. I couldn't have done it alone, and again, we're gonna have so many machines on hand, and we've already actually pre-sold these first 1,000 machines. We've pre-sold 2,600 machines actually in the last year. So we have a lot, like some catching up to do with our shipments, and we're just starting to drive new sales now.
Amazing. Reuben, it's been great to have you on Plugged In. How do people find out more about you and Spout?
Yeah, so you can go to spoutwater.com, SPOUTWATER.com, and or follow us on Instagram at spoutwater. Yeah, that'd be the best way.
Beautiful. Well, it's been really interesting and it's exciting as well. I think you've got a really great product here and looking forward to watching you and Spout's journey over the next few months.
Thank you. And if there's any listeners who are interested about our product, I'll also make a discount code plug for $50 off for anybody who listens to this and wants to try out a machine.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great day. Thank you.